Welcome to Channel 18 News. I'm Jim Rogers. It was a busy day for plea bargaining in 8th Judicial District Court Thursday. The result was 5 agreements to sentencing in the Texas Department of Criminal Justice. Damian Cunning, age 22, of Arkansas, agreed to 2 years in the Texas Department of Criminal Justice for tampering with physical evidence. In the agreement, a charge of bribery was dismissed. Cunning was a passenger at an auto stopped at the 132-mile marker on eastbound I-30. The driver of the auto had called 911 when she became afraid of Cunning. She told the officer that Cunning had thrown a joint into the ditch prior to the arrival of the officer. A field sobriety test showed him to be intoxicated and a danger to himself and others. A $20 bill in his billfold added to his problems when he offered the bill to the Hopkins County deputy in exchange for not charging him with several offenses committed. On the way to jail, the deputy noted Cunning trying to place a key in his mouth and also trying to place a baggie of suspected marijuana in his mouth. At the jail, when he was arrested, when the deputy returned to his patrol vehicle, he found a baggie of suspected marijuana in the vehicle where Cunning had been sitting. Everett Brown Jr. was sentenced to 16 years. Brown, age 43, was one of 2 arrested in a traffic stop with methamphetamine found in a center console of the vehicle. In a cigarette box in the console were 2 baggies of methamphetamines and syringes. He was in possession of less than 4 grams of meth. David Jason Nigel was sentenced to 15 years each for evading arrest detention with vehicle with previous conviction and tamper physical evidence with intent to impair. He will serve those 2 sentences concurrently. Dayton Hargett pled to 10 years in the Texas Department of Criminal Justice for engaging in organized criminal activity and burglary of a habitation. Hargett, age 29, of Hughes Springs, was one of 4 arrested for the burglary of Weaver Baptist Church and a residence on County Road 3600. The 5th plea bargain we mentioned yesterday was Barney Eby, the escapee from the Hopkins County Inmate Work Group, located 12 hours later in Athens. He received 50 years. Jimmy D. Odell is back in Hopkins County Jail after a Hopkins County deputy made a traffic stop on a 2008 Chevrolet pickup he was driving. It was found that he was within 696 feet from the place of employment of a victim of his August 8th stalking charge. He was in violation of a protective order that had been issued at that time, and he was also in possession of a pair of brass knuckles that was found in his vehicle. Odell is now charged with possession of a prohibited weapon and with violation of the protective order. In July, Hopkins County deputies responded to a disturbance on County Road 2335 on Monday evening around 6 p.m., where they found Odell, age 59, had knowingly pulled a trailer with another individual in it, and the individual had fallen inside the trailer. In a bedroom of the residence, 4.68 grams of methamphetamine were also found. After a lengthy investigation by the Criminal Special Crimes Unit, 3 additional charges of manufactured delivery controlled substance penalty group 1, more than 1 gram but less than 4 grams in a drug-free zone, and 1 charge of manufactured delivery of a controlled substance penalty group 3, less than 28 grams in a drug-free zone, have been added to charges against 2 who are already incarcerated in Hopkins County Jail. The additional charges were filed against Megan Strawn, age 22, and Corey Allen Duval Kenyon, age 19, both of Sulphur Springs. The charges were filed after investigators completed their paperwork regarding several purchases of methamphetamine from the defendants dating back to June of this year. Duval Kenyon, age 19, was arrested on 9th Street when a Sulphur Springs police officer performed a pat-down for weapons. The officer discovered a clear plastic baggie containing methamphetamine along with a glass pipe commonly used for smoking meth, and the discovery of several needles. Strawn has several drug-related arrests and burglary of a vehicle charges against her in recent history. Additional charges have been filed against Darren Lee Gibson, age 48, of Sulphur Springs. Adding to the burglary of a building are 3 manufacture and delivery of a controlled substance penalty group 1, more than 1 gram, but less than 4 grams. One of the charges is in a drug-free zone. Mr. Gibson was in our news yesterday when he was arrested for burglary of a habitation.
In today's interview, we're going to meet a Sulphur Springs High School graduate who gained a degree in criminal justice, then worked for 4 different major police departments, then developed a career in the civil process as an instructor, then authored a handbook on the civil process that continues today to be useful to peace officers, lawyers, and citizens. The brand new edition is coming out in late August, available online, and will feature the Hopkins County Courthouse on the cover. Let's meet Chief Deputy John Steinzig.
It's designed for anyone who is involved in civil law and explains the lawsuit from start to finish and all the documents that may or may not be issued in the lawsuit and what they do.
Okay. It's in a spiral bound. It's handy size to hold and read, and it is called Civil Process for Texas. And it could answer a lot of questions if something comes up in your life that you need answers to, the right answers.
It's a very handy book that pulls about 10 to 12 codes together, and the parts that relate to civil lawsuits are in the book. So it saves you having to go to about 12 different books.
And who can do that, especially if you're stressed by a current situation happening to you? So you've done the research for us.
Yes, ma'am.
And it's all in this handy edition. I'm holding the 2015-2016 edition, which is still current because you update this how often?
About every 2 years.
Okay.
The Supreme Court meets the years that the legislature doesn't meet.
Okay.
And if they change any rules, they change it during that period of time usually.
Okay.
And then, of course, the legislature meets.
Yes,
and,
the legislature meets.
And I've realized that old statement about no man, woman, child, dog, or cat is safe in this state when the legislature's in session. I have found that to be not an old saying; it's a true statement.
It's a true statement. Your brand new one that comes out September 1st, stating the changes that we all need to be aware of, is going to have a beautiful picture of somebody's courthouse on the front.
Yeah, I took that picture of the Sulphur Springs Courthouse, and I'm very proud of that picture. I like it, and I think we got an outstanding courthouse in Sulphur Springs. And
you love Sulphur Springs, Hopkins County, and you have some long roots here. Would you tell us about it?
Well, I graduated from Sulphur Springs High School, was a member of Bill Bradford's first radio workshop group.
Yes.
And remember that well, the old building over there on Radio Road?
Yes, the shack.
And of course, I keep up with Sulphur Springs. I look at KSST's website.
Good.
And follow everything going on. And my sister-in-law, Liz Steinzig, still lives here.
Okay.
And of course, I see occasionally someone I went to school with.
Okay, class of
1960 was our graduating year.
Okay,
We were the last class in the old high school building because the junior high school burned.
Yes.
And they moved the junior high school to the new building, and we still ended up being the last class graduating from the old high school, if I have it correct.
Okay. So how did you go from there into law enforcement? What was your transition?
Well, Paul Ray Jones, he
was a sheriff.
He was a sheriff here, and he tried to talk me out of it, actually.
Really?
I was reserved for him, and my wife and I had not been married very long, and Paul Ray came to our house at like 8 o'clock in the morning, knocking on the door, and sat us down and talked to us for about 30 to 45 minutes about everything bad about law enforcement. And, you can do better and all this kind of stuff. And I had applied for a job at the Lufkin Police Department, and they'd been up doing the background investigation. And he said, "Now, I recommend you don't take the job, but I gave you a good recommendation." And I took the job. And I did regular law enforcement for about 19 and a half years. And I took the civil job as a temporary job. And after a couple of months, the job I had lined up called me. And I liked what I was doing, a lot, so I stayed for 20 years. And it is still fascinating to me because it's new every day, and I am the civil consultant for the Sheriff's Association of Texas. So I get calls from all over the state, and I've taught classes from El Paso to Texarkana and from Dumas to McAllen and all points in between.
I see.
I've also taught for LEMA, the Law Enforcement Institute of Texas, in Sam Houston State, and I teach for several colleges. My course is usually 40 hours, and I wondered the first time I did one of them what I'd talk about for 40 hours, and I found out I can run out of time. The book, the first one was 87 pages, and now it's up to over 300. So it just keeps growing all the time.
And completely indexed.
And
The chapters kind of lead you along. You can find what your current need or interest is easily.
right, it goes in the sequence. The things that you need to know before you even get a paper, like how the fees are established. What about the out-of-state papers? How do you do those? All those kind of things like that. What can stop a civil lawsuit? That's nice to know. Well, it's really essential to know before you start. And then the next chapter is citations, subpoenas, and notices, and that has all the rules and codes that govern that type of service, and that starts the lawsuit. And then there can be prejudgment writs, which are enforcement writs before there's a final judgment, and they're just designed to take something under control of the court to protect it and keep it safe until the suit is actually decided. Then the post-judgment is where they're actually telling us to seize property or collect money or whatever.
And a lengthy process throughout sometimes.
Yes. And only a sheriff or constable can do most of these.
Okay.
The one exception can be in tax suits sometimes where it says peace officer, it means any peace officer.
Well, the person who, if you've ever been served papers, then there's a person who brings this to you. The person who serves the paper performs a very important duty.
Yes, and it's important for him to, these can be long documents, they can be short documents. I saw one time from Canada, and it looked like something you'd frame and put on the wall.
Oh, really?
It was in the name of the Queen, a beautiful seal on it. And sometimes it's necessary for us to explain the procedure that, if you don't respond, the other party may get a judgment by default. So therefore, if this is not right, then you do need to respond. You do need to get your day in court. And that response is written, and you can check with the court to find out what format they want it in. And that type of thing, I think it's important for the officers when they're doing this to follow that rule number one, be fair to both sides, and make sure that the public understands the consequences and what they need to do.
And yes, that rings important. What the difference is between the civil process and a criminal process, we hear a lot about criminal law on the news, etc.
Yes.
But there's a whole nother side to things. And this handbook is actually a handbook for the common person and for, as you mentioned earlier, the things that lawyers may not have learned in law school.
Yeah, because I've been to these Supreme Court Rules Committee meetings, and they talk a lot about what the courts do, but when it comes to our end of it, where we're out there in the field actually carrying out these orders, they're not discussed as much as the other parts are.
Okay.
And we end up with a lot of responsibility and a lot of codes to follow. It can get very complicated.
What is the research process that you go through with all these references that you have to every other year produce an updated version?
First thing is I look at the legislation that the governor signs.
Okay.
Next thing, the legislation he doesn't sign, because it becomes law after 60 days if he doesn't sign it. And I don't worry about the vetoed bills.
Okay.
Because they're not going to affect me. But I actually start looking for code numbers to see if there's any changes in the code numbers that are in the book. Okay. And that way that kind of tells me what's going on with it. And it's a lot of time. A lot of different organizations put out legislative summaries, like the Law Enforcement Commission, but they primarily concentrate on criminal, not civil. And it is hard to find the civil information.
If there is a case in progress and the new laws come into effect in the new edition, civil process in Texas, then those things change within that case?
No, the case will be tried under the current law it was filed under. But the service of the documents and everything, generally it stays the same. It doesn't change too often. I have some little changes in there this time. There's a writ of retrieval. It's to retrieve property when people can't get along, and so in the writ of retrieval, like they added family violence, a definition from the family code, and they also made those writs expire in 5 days from the date they're issued. Previously, they didn't have an expiration date.
Oh, I see.
And so they do now. And that's one of the changes in the book. So the officers will know that they have a limited time to do these.
More definement on that. And you have a publisher that helps you get this out.
Yes, ma'am. It was published by LexisNexis Book the last 12 or so years, and they have divided into 2 publishing groups. It's still Matthew Binder publishing it, who owns LexisNexis, but they are publishing their law enforcement publications now under the name Blue 360 Media.
Okay.
And so I have a new publisher, but I'm still working with exactly the same people.
How can we get a hold of this starting September 1st? No, end of August.
Yeah. You can go to blue360media.com, and if you put in civil process for Texas in their search, it will go straight to the book.
Okay.
And you want to order the 2017 version.
Okay.
Because I think they have a few left of the 2015-16 version.
And it will look like this one, although it will be practically in this same shape and size here. Maybe a little larger.
It'll be a little larger.
Okay.
And I understand it's going to have a wire binder instead of the plastic one.
Okay.
But we will see. And the reason they wanted to bind it like a book, but it won't lay flat if you bind it like a book. We did that one year. Now, I write the book, but Lexis sells the book.
Okay.
So I had to buy 2 books myself that year. I wore them out looking stuff up. And,
the civil process for Texas, and we'll look forward to that coming out. And I know, and we don't have very much time left, but I want to say that advice you got from who we would call Popeye Jones in our local history here in Hopkins County about law enforcement and marriage, it didn't affect your marriage.
Well, we've been married for 55 years.
Okay. And we get to see you in Hopkins County from time to time because you have some property here.
Yes, ma'am. Have to mow the grass.
Yeah, we mow around here, don't we?
Yes, and this rainy year, it's been a lot of work.
Just briefly, have you kind of got a lawman's badge mini museum in your possession?
I really do. Most places I worked at gave me the badge when I left. So I do have badges and patches from a lot of departments because I worked at 4 major police departments in the Metroplex. And I worked for some of the better departments, and I took a little bit from each one of them. And when I went to DeSoto, I ended up doing crime prevention there, which was great, and also crime scene search. So I had a varied law enforcement career before civil.
A very varied career.
Very varied.
And congratulations on your long legal career, which is by no means over, and you're quite robust and continuing. You've got your next book coming out. And thank you for what you do for us Texans on a very practical basis with civil process for Texas.
Well, I'm happy. I hope everyone can use it. By the way, they changed all the JP court rules 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And it has all the new rules in it in one chapter.
Okay.
It helps the officers greatly.
That will be handy. And be sure and get your own copy. And thank you for putting our beautiful courthouse on the cover this year.
It should be in all 254 counties of Texas.
And well, maybe they'll do a guessing game about what courthouse that is.
Could be.
Yeah.
So far, only East Texas local people have got it right.
Okay, good. Thank you very much, John Steinsick, for coming in today.
Well, thank you for interviewing me.
Okay.
Enjoyed it.
We appreciate your visit to town and all that you do.
Here's Don Julian with sports.
The Wildcats Marching Band will complete 2 weeks of summer practice Friday evening. They are progressing just fine, according to band director Charles McCauley. I talked with McCauley during a Thursday practice session.
It's really going well. We didn't have practice yesterday. We had our picture day, and shout out to Mike Lading. He had a heart attack 2 weeks ago, and less than 2 weeks ago in Michigan, and came back and did our pictures. So we really appreciate him for doing that. So we didn't have practice yesterday, but we started on Tuesday night. We were actually marching and moving and playing some of the openers. So we haven't learned all the opener. We've learned probably 5 sets, but we were marching and playing it at the same time by the end of Tuesday night. So that's really great. And so I think it's going along well. We've learned all our fundamentals. We're just adding the stuff in now. We will have learned, by the end of tomorrow night, I think we will have learned all the opener. That's our goal.
Yeah. With so many freshmen that we've talked about, that's very significant, marching and playing, because that is really a first for them, isn't it?
Yes, it's a big time adjustment. We're throwing all this stuff at them. They're playing really well. They're doing this great stuff. Oh, by the way, kids, now you have to memorize the music and march and play at the same time. It's a tall order, but they're doing great. I mean, we think by squad competition, we think we're going to be playing and marching the opener, or at least most of it. And so that's really awesome. That's great improvement by the kids day to day, trying to make it better every day, and just couldn't be prouder of them.
Now, they're doing a couple of classical pieces in song number 1. Are they more difficult, or what are the challenges of doing Prokofiev and Mahler?
The challenges are, it's music that's lasted the test of time, and so obviously it's good music, and so we have to really be precise in everything that we do. It's not music they're used to listening to. It doesn't have a beat they can dance to or whatever, but it definitely is great music, and they're loving it. Now, it's hard. It's more intricate. That and jazz, classical and jazz, are both very hard, but they're doing great. I mean, I've been really, really, really happy with the progress. This opener is hard. Musically, it's very hard. But we think when we get it, which we will, it's going to really pay off dividends for us.
Is it a big portion of the entire show, the first tune? Is it long?
It's probably the longest song. The third song is very short. The second song is not as long. Yeah, it's the longest song, but it's probably 30% of the show. So we hope to have all that on the field, marching it for the first game. That's our goal.
So what takes place today? When you get them outside, what are you going to do?
Well, right now we're inside. We're learning music. We'll go outside. We'll do our warm-ups, which is we do a physical warm-up with them every day to get them to learn how to stretch their bodies and all that. And then we will start with the music, and we'll probably learn, play the music outside, and then we will learn some more. We'll go over the drill we learned Tuesday night, get that ingrained in their brain. The chips are still out on the field. They'll go out there and put their feet between the chips, and then they will learn new sets, and we're hoping to get to set 10 tonight. And if we can do that and put that to music, that's almost half the opener, so that would be exciting.
Now, I know near the end of the season you say you want them to get better every day, but really that applies from right now, doesn't it?
We told them after the the July 31st rehearsal, we said this is the worst they're going to be all year. If we do our thing about getting better every day, one more notch up the ladder, if you do that, every day, you're going to have a season to remember. And so that's what our goal is, and that's what we're doing. And so far it's happened. We've gotten better every day. We really haven't had a lax day. Now, usually when school starts, they kind of hit a wall. Coach Owens and I always call each other bemoaning the fact on that first day of school because we have them to ourselves for so long. Then school starts because they've got all the other stuff to think about. But until then, so far everything's been going step by step by step. It's been really good.
Now they can read a calendar, so the thought of the first performance, is that exciting or scary?
For the freshmen, it's scary. I mean, it's scary for freshmen. I mean, you're learning so much stuff in such a short amount of time. It's very scary for them, but they're doing great. I mean, sure, we get out there and we look around and they're kind of lost at times, but so am I. So, I mean, that's kind of the way it is when you learn this stuff. The freshmen aren't the only ones that are lost, but we keep telling them it's going to be okay. You're going to learn it. You're going to do it so many times, have so many reps on it. You're going to be fine, and they are.
As other Sulphur Springs High School sports and extracurricular activities have started, football has had to wait. UIL rules dictate the start of practice, and that beginning date for the Wildcats is on Monday, August 14th. The Wildcats are starting a week later than some because they had spring football practice. The Wildcats will also be limited to just one scrimmage rather than two. Monday hours for varsity and JV football practice will be 5 p.m. until 9 p.m. Wildcats football coach Greg Owens says the varsity and JV teams will spend the first hour in the weight room. They will hit the field from 6 p.m. until 9 p.m. Coach Owens says he'll decide if practice will be outside or in the multipurpose building, depending on the weather. The freshman team also begins practice Monday, and they will be working out from 5 p.m. until 8 p.m. The evening football practice will allow the coaching staff to be available for educational in-service sessions during the day. The Wildcats will have their only scrimmage on Friday, August 25th at Liberty ILO in Texarkana. The scrimmage start time has been changed from morning to evening. And the Lady Cats volleyball team is playing in its first tournament of the season. It started Friday. They are in a Garland tournament. The Lady Cats come into the tournament with a 1-1 season record. Last Tuesday, the Lady Cats opened the season at home with a 3-0 victory over North Lamar, followed by a 3-2 loss to Sherman. Friday, the Lady Cats had 3 matches in pool play in that Garland tournament. All of these matches were at Rowlett High School. The Lady Cats play South Garland, Carrollton Newman Smith, and also Mesquite Horn. Lady Cats results on Friday will determine which bracket that they will compete in on Saturday.
Thanks for watching Channel 18 News. Have a great evening.
So we're going to go outside later on and work the chunk that we did on Tuesday and get memorized again. Okay, and I need you to remember that change. Yes, Brass? Yes, sir. All right, very good. Okay, can we go from the top to there? From the top to there.